Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you joining us for this live broadcast, or if you're catching this on the recording, appreciate you catching it on the recording too. We're just going to give it another 20 seconds or so, just let some more people join the room. I can see everybody coming in now. So yeah, great to have you here. Really looking forward to today's topic, Flying Blind, remove the Business Central reporting blindfold for real data-driven decisioning. And really diving into how can we get more from the data that's already in your business and really listen to what it's trying to tell you so your team and your colleagues and you can make the right decisions next. So really looking forward to jumping into the content today. I'm joined by Michael Davies. Michael, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you, James. And you?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to the session, looking forward to it. And look, I think looking at the numbers, that feels about right. I think it's good for us to get started. So look, I think the cornerstone of today's content is really this statement that's on screen right now. Good decisions start with good data. If we can get the right data going in, we can get insights out that allow your business to make the next move the right one. And when you feel confident in the data and what it's telling you, well, you get that confidence throughout the business too. And you start to feel like you're able to remove that reporting blindfold and really listen to the insights that you knew were there all along, but now you actually have them in front of you to trust, share with your colleagues, and then make the right decisions together. To give a brief introduction to myself, my name's James Ford. I've been working in enterprise data for about the last 15 years. I spent a considerable amount of time in my career working as the chief commercial officer of a Microsoft CSP direct reseller cloud solutions provider. And where we really specialized was helping businesses set up for success on the Dynamics platform, but then leveraging the Power Platform to get as much data and value from those systems as possible. And I'm really pleased to be working closely with the team at eNotion that have been obsessing over that problem for many years now and diving into some of the insights and content that we have available to us in today's session. So really looking forward to it, and yeah, thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Michael to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, James. So yeah, hi, I'm Michael Davies. I'm a director at Ares Global Software Group, which eNotion and the Business Central Insights product is part of. I have over 20 years of experience in finance, software, data analytics, including with Snowflake, which is one of the largest data and AI software firms in the world. And for many years, I've been helping firms of all sizes make data and analytics really easy for everyone. Thanks, James.
Good stuff. Well, look, as I mentioned on that first slide, today's content really revolves around that statement of good decisions start with good data. But I also want to share really a short story, a bit of an extension of that one-liner of what people often say to us. And look, the statement goes like this. Every business relies on accurate reporting to understand where they are today and plan for tomorrow. Yet if you're using Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, you know its standard reporting tools often fall short, leaving you with a murky picture of your operational performance, so you're effectively flying blind. And this is something that we've had multiple businesses say to us over recent months and years. And it doesn't need to be this way. There are businesses, there are tools, there are ways in which you can get clarity on that data. And that's what we're looking to share a little bit more context and information around today.
So yeah, I think firms historically have focused on using reporting for really three main areas. They're trying to understand how revenue has been generated. They're trying to track where costs are rising and keeping control of them. And they're also using data and reporting to run day-to-day operations, identify risks, and mitigate those risks and any issues that are happening within the operations themselves. So the world has really changed. Companies are now having to compete globally. Digitalization has brought many benefits, but now companies are expected to operate faster than ever. And data analytics and AI has revolutionized how customers, or how we can understand our customers. But also that's dramatically changed our customers' expectations, which creates new challenges for us. But as the business world evolves, the limitations of traditional reporting have become glaringly apparent. That old ways no longer suffice in a world that, regardless of company size, demands agility and precise data-driven decisions. So really with this, what we're seeing is that the pressure and the scrutiny from companies internally is just growing, and that is just putting even more pressure on us to perform. And then ultimately, the gap in traditional reporting has now become very, very obvious. So let me give you a really good example here. I think many people actually know of this as the Amazon effect in retail, but it's really a sign of how dramatically the retail industry has changed, and it's been transformed really by data analytics and AI. Think about a mid-sized retail chain that relies on monthly reports from Business Central. For years, these reports were really good enough, but now when customers can easily compare product offering and pricing, plus expect real-time stock availability and next-day delivery, how can you possibly manage without intraday reporting when a sudden trend spikes demand for a product, for example? The outdated reports didn't capture the real-time surge in demand, or it was really difficult to try and find out what the source of that spike was. And it wouldn't let Business Central customers slice and dice to really get to the bottom of that cause. The result, stock issues, lost sales, and these problems can really traditionally only be ever countered by overstocking and tying up precious capital in the process. Next slide, please, shows. So look, this is really a clear sign that in today's fast-paced market, old methods just won't cut it. We need dynamic data and reporting to keep up really, with the world as we see it.
Yeah, I think to sort of pick up on this one as well, Michael, it's very much something that's often been put down in the past as a cost of doing business. We can't forecast that accurately. How were we to know that there was these gaps that were occurring in our sales pipeline and leading to these problems downstream? But unfortunately, now with those added layers of scrutiny that you mentioned just a moment ago, these are becoming very much people level problems. People are being held account for those gaps, for those shortfalls. And there's an expectation that it should be fixed, and it should be fixed very quickly. And that's really where that added pressure is coming from, and that increasing need for clarity on the data and what the reports are trying to tell us. And I think here, these quotes are really just some things that we've heard, and we wanted to share them today to see if they resonated with you. I mean, whether you are a manager or you are someone that is dealing with these problems firsthand and they are your responsibility, there has always been that tendency to hear or say things like, I've been asking for this data. I knew this problem would occur. I could sense it. I just didn't have the data available to me to convince and show everybody else and therefore allow the business to do anything about it. I knew this might happen. Again, that gut feeling where something isn't quite right, but you don't have the robust reports available to you, which demonstrate it to all of the key stakeholders, allowing you to make changes and ultimately get ahead of these problems occurring. And to the point of, and the story that Michael just shared in regards to Amazon, overstocking is just as costly as understocking. Do we want to hold too many assets that may never sell and we have to let go at a loss? Or are we going to understock and miss out on these key selling opportunities where we can really make our money for the next year? And that's just not, not just a problem that occurs in retail. We see it in a number of different sectors as well. It's about managing that supply and demand accurately so your business is able to optimize itself for margins and profitability. I want to tell a short story that really I encountered a few years ago now. And it was a story that really jumped to the front of my mind as I started to see the solutions that eNotion had been helping very similar businesses with. And it was a multi-region manufacturer. And so they had warehouses and distribution centers across Europe, but also through to the Middle East and across to Asia as well. And really what was happening across that organization was a death by 1,000 paper cuts. They were holding surplus stock in certain regions that didn't match the demand of the sales that were happening in that territory. It also wasn't matching what we were seeing in the sales forecasts and the pipelines being held by the sales organizations. And what this eventually meant that they were having to, at the last minute, organize logistics and carriers to move stock from warehouse to warehouse to ultimately feed the demand that they had across their markets. These were huge costs that ate away at their margins quite significantly. If they were just able to connect what was happening in the sales data to what was then happening in terms of demand in their region, they would have been able to eradicate so many of these costs. And all that really came down to was being able to segment their reports on sales by sellers, by region, being able to slice and dice it effectively. And what that would have then allowed them to do is source and stock each one of their centers with the right type of materials and products to meet that demand, rather than it just being a one size fits all for every single one of these centers. And so what this leads us to is we need that dynamic data to keep up and get ahead. The problem that we now face as businesses is it is no longer a competitive advantage to have these reports inside our business. It is actually just a business standard. If we don't have it, we are most likely falling behind our competitors and our peers across industry at a pretty dramatic rate, because they are accessible, because they are easy to implement. And we really need to have that as a baseline standard of insight to what our data is trying to tell us. These types of business inefficiencies have existed for a long time. And so I guess this is really an opportunity for me to say this isn't anybody's fault. They were always put down for a long time as a cost of doing business. But the environment around us as professionals has changed, has shifted. The accessibility to reports which really go the extra mile to understand what's happening in the data and surface those insights to the business users in real time has now become something which is easy to implement and also highly transformational when it comes to what the decision-making quality then becomes within these organizations. And this is the new era that I'm really hinting at. It's a new era for reporting and it's a new era for Business Central. Now, if you have been a Business Central user for a long time, you've likely had the promise of what Power BI is capable of, but you've never really had the expertise or the time, quite frankly, to dig in and make that tool work for your business. But there are now teams that are waking up each and every single day, obsessing about how they can fix these problems. What I want to do is just take this statement really as an example of a universal challenge that we see across many businesses that are really striving to become data driven, and ask you, is it something that you could easily turn to your data systems to your data systems today and work out? So if you was to ask your Dynamics 365 Business Central instance today, show me sales by region and or top salespeople, and how the trend is impacted by week-on-week sales and marketing initiatives. So you ran a promotion in sales and marketing. How has that impacted forecasts, revenue, actuals that are happening at a regional level and a per salesperson level? Quite a simple ask, because you would hope that one of the biggest spends in your business, that is sales and marketing, can be represented in the reports. But it's a blind spot for so many businesses, and it really just doesn't need to be. When it comes to what's changing in your supply chain, and being able to better forecast, a better plan for materials being received into the warehouses to ultimately create products and populate your stock levels, this really can have quite a profound impact on the overall cost of goods sold. And what we often find here is once we start to help businesses have a much clearer insight to those costs of goods sold and ultimately management of stock levels, it makes a profound impact on margin. And when you operate in a business that maybe has a 10% margin or less, 20% at a push, those additional percentage points that can be found in these efficiencies are quite profound. Another question that you might ask yourself is, why is the sales pipeline dropping that could impact revenue later in the year? How is that going to impact revenue later in the year? If we've had a drop in activity of, let's say, opportunities created, calls made, meetings booked, meetings sat and attended, how is that going to impact us in 3 months' time? And we should be able to see that impact as it's happening inside our business rather than having to do it retrospectively in 3 months of sales start to drop off. And we look back and there was this gap in our activity and ultimately what those North Star metrics are that lead to success down the track. And then the other question that you probably ask yourself is when you feel something changing, when your gut and your intuition, your experience is telling you that things aren't quite going the way that they should be, and there is a problem emerging, do you have the skills or the tools on hand to prove that to your colleagues? And if you don't, you should. When it comes to those questions that we just posed, waiting to find out what happens down the line, even when your gut is telling you otherwise, is unnecessary. And quite honestly, it's unacceptable. And it's unacceptable because of the accessibility to great tools, like we mentioned earlier. And this is what drives me to a point I've mentioned a few times during today's presentation already, but there are teams today that wake up and obsess over closing these gaps in reporting of what businesses deserve and expect and what Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is able to offer out of the box. And one of those businesses is eNotion. And today we want to share just a few of the examples of the 400 out of the box reports that serve sales, marketing, finance, and a whole host of other key components of your business, which allow you to understand the data that you already own and possess to a much higher degree of detail and value. Now I'm going to pass back over to Michael to take us through the next few slides.
Thanks, James. So look, most customers really find that the business standard reports are okay in many occasions. Often they find that they're not, particularly if they work in certain industries, fields, or their companies has unique characteristics. Then really they'll find that the standard business central reports are not good enough, right? So they can't meet their specific reporting needs or answer specific questions that they have. And sometimes they might have tried to deal with this manually, exporting reports into Excel, for example, but this takes so much time. So many people have tried to find solutions to this. And really there's a number of important things that people are looking for to try and get started doing this, right? And they've kind of realized that they need to have IT. They might need to involve consultants. And all of this can take many, many months, right? If not years, requiring expensive technology, data warehouses, for example, and resources. So really, we saw, when I was working at Snowflake, we saw a revolution really in making data and analytics more accessible to more people. And what I love the most about eNotion and the Business Central Insights product is that really it's continuing that journey. It's about making reporting, analytics, and AI available to everyone, right? Not just specialists. So really with Business Central Insights, you can get 400 plus reports out of the box in many, many areas like finance, cash flow, sales, inventory, and manufacturing. And it really, what's important here is that you can actually make changes, customize the charts, add additional columns, rows, etc., but without having to involve technical users. So business users can really use this themselves with very little help or none. So what's also important, I think, is that business users want to be able to very quickly go and dive into the data and analyze it in more detail, perhaps get it in the format that they really need it. So they want to be able to slice and dice, as we refer to it, as by different dimensions, for example, by different periods. As we mentioned here, like you've got some figures, but you want to understand rather than, just looking at them for the year, you want to understand how they've changed year on year, or perhaps how they're changing month on month or week by week. You want to dive in and look at different product lines, for example, and try and understand, how changes there are perhaps influencing your business. You want to look at different business units, different sellers, see who your top performers are, who's not performing. And then maybe look at regions. More and more businesses are operating not just in many locations around the country, but globally as well. So it's more important than ever that you can really dive into your data and slice and dice it how you need it. And for business users to be able to do that, to be able to go in, easily navigate the platform, find the reports they need, tailor them in just a few clicks, and get the specific insights that they're looking for in minutes. So really, if I think about this, many companies that we speak to try and do this themselves. You could self-build these reports, right? But this will take many, many months, if not years, as I've mentioned, requiring specialist resources, specialist people. And companies often spend many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, trying to do this. And even when you've done all that, it could fail. I hate to say it, Snowflake, my many years in data, I've seen many failed data projects. People have spent years trying to do this, even really big, advanced, some of the largest banks in the world that I've worked with, who are supposed to be the biggest data superstars out there. They've struggled, right? So, it is a really difficult challenge, and there's a lot of risk involved. So to do it yourself, normally, as I said, you would need to have not just specialists, but you need to have people that understand Business Central. You need to have your data gurus, if you like, your data engineers, your data experts, your BI, intelligence, analytics experts. And then you also need that expensive data technology, like a data warehouse. And even if you looked at another third-party solution, right, and there's plenty out there that have tried to do this before, you typically still need all of these things. You still need a consultant. You still need data warehouse. And this is expensive and time-consuming, right? So as I said, what we really saw as an opportunity here at eNotion with Business Central Insights is a way to make data and analytics accessible to all, right? Imagine if you could actually just turn all of your business users into data analytics rock stars, superstars, right? With Business Central Insights, all you need is Business Central and Power BI, which is cheap, and you can do that. It really is that easy.
I think when this slide here, Michael, what it reminds me of is when we were first engaging with businesses and looking to help them really mature and build the reports that the business needed, was they often were trying to overcome two bottlenecks. One was some of their best talent would spend enormous amounts of time taking the data out of the CRM, putting it into Excel spreadsheets, trying to manipulate it there. And to your point, would spend weeks and sometimes months really trying to get to the insights that they were, that they first hypothesized were there. The problem with that was the data was out of date then by a matter of weeks and months, which meant that the insights that they were actually analyzing were now in the past. It also led to a huge loss of productivity for that very talented individual, because they should be able to be actively making decisions with the data, not crunching it for too long. And that was a big sort of productivity pinch point, and obviously then that problem of analyzing data, which is now out of date because it's not based on what's really happening today within the business. The other one that it reminds me of is often businesses will have someone that really is the go-to person in the organization for Business Central. And that individual is busy. It's often not their core responsibility to help with Business Central queries, but they love it. And they become a bit of a pinch point and a bottleneck. And they don't do it on purpose. There is just simply so many hours in the day. And whilst the people go and then put requests in this individual's queue, they get left waiting weeks, months, and those problems that they felt may be coming down the track actually start to materialize. And then that's what they face inside the boardroom and inside their direct reports and the problems that they have to deal with their colleagues. And I think here that statement of just being able to turn your top talent into superstars by being able to see what's really happening in the data right then and there is a really important statement for us to really rally around.
Really agree with that, James, and it's a really interesting one because only last week we met with a new company who actually reached out to us because they'd had exactly those key critical people in their business that usually prepare those reports. One of them left, and that created a massive bottleneck and a huge amount of risk, right, in terms of that business knowledge and expertise within the business. So, it was the sales director that we spoke to, and that person was like, "We need to find another solution here. We really need to sort this out, right?" So.
Where are those great monthly reports that we have? Yeah. Oh, the person that creates them left, and we don't know how to do it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's rare, but it can happen, and it doesn't need to. Look, I think at this point, I just want to pause for a moment, and I wanted to ask everybody. Um, we're gonna open up a few spots with our in-house experts to really give some guided sessions on the reports that are most important to you. We're opening up a few spots. It's first come, first served. There's a poll on screen now. If you would benefit into a deep dive into the Business Central Insights reports, which are most relevant to you and your sort of area of responsibility within the business, hit yes. And if we're able to open up one of those spots for you, we will. We'll be in touch. We'll do all the other steps for you. We'll get the session booked in. But it really will be 30 minutes where you'll just be able to see the data that's so important to you and your job role coming to life through these reports. And you'll get a greater understanding of what those top level reports really look like. Give it a few more seconds for everybody to complete the poll, can see the answers coming in. Okay, good stuff. Yeah, quite a few yeses there. This is good. Look, we're going to do all we can to just take these steps further and help you fully understand the value that is contained within these reports as well. Now, from here, what we want to do is actually show you a little bit of the system more generally. Now, there's 400 reports out of the box. We're definitely not going to cover all of those today. I'm actually going to switch into a recording that Michael kindly put together for us yesterday. And he's going to walk you through some of the key features, showing you how you can slice and dice, split by region, salespeople. There's some good stuff in there. So we'll see you as soon as that recording finishes.
We're going to do a very quick overview here of the Business Central Insights apps. We're going to show you where you can find them, what apps there are, what reports there are in some of those apps, or at least some of them. And we're going to show you how even a business user, a non-technical user, could customize them without having to wait for IT, without having to get a consultant. You can slice and dice and get some of the insights you potentially need for your business. Now, of course, if you do want to dive into this in more detail, we'd be glad to organize a dedicated session with you where we can cover off the reports that you're specifically interested in, and we can show you how to particularly solve some of the specific challenges that you have. But anyway, if we come back here to the Microsoft App Store, we were to type in here Business Central. This would pull up some of the top apps that are available for Business Central. There's thousands. And what's quite interesting is actually the e-notion ones appear very near the top. So top rated, best matches. And in actual fact, if you look at average rating, you'd find they're at the very, very top. And there's quite a lot of them at the very, very top. So highly rated, highly popular apps. If we want to have a look at some of these specific e-notion ones that are available, you can see in here, we've got a total of 12 apps. We have our Power BI connector, and this is what's needed to connect to your Business Central so that you can get your data within the Business Central Insights apps themselves. And then you've got the BCI apps. These are built within Power BI, so you need a Power BI license, but that's very cheap and easy and quick to do. And then we have a wide range of different apps around sales, manufacturing, finance, inventory. These are some of the top apps that we have. We've got CRM, accounts receivable, cash flow, purchasing insights, jobs, accounts payable, and service insights. And these are available as different apps, so you can choose which ones you want, and then you have to pay for what you actually need. So let me dive into some of these now. I'm just going to show you finance, inventory, and sales apps and some of the reports that are available within those. Okay, so diving into some of the apps, we're going to cover off the finance app, very high level, although we're going to look at the inventory at a high level, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper into the sales insights app and the various reports within that. Starting off though with the finance, as you can see, we've got a great number of different reports here already made, ready to go with your data. These are split into different categories. We've got our finance overview dashboard. We've got our balance sheet. We've got our income statement, P&L, various different ratios here. If we were to dive in, say, to the finance overview, we see where I have our dashboard showing our finance overview, our gross profit margin, net profit, and so on. We could look at this for a different period. This is last year. We can look at the current year, perhaps not going as well this year. We could look at this by other things like area, by industry. And there's a whole range of other different reports here. For example, P&L statement. We've got efficiency ratios. everything really that you might need to run the business from a finance point of view. Going through into the inventory insights, huge number of different reports here as well. I'll go out those in a minute, but I just wanted to quickly show you one of the favorite reports that we have, which is the out of stock days. So this shows you different items and how long they're out of stock for. So again, this is something that can be used to manage your inventory better within your business. But there's a whole host of other reports here within the main menu. Inventory overviews, inventory tables, out of stock days, inventory aging. You can do analysis by sales lines, by purchase lines, by assembly orders. Again, really everything you might need to run your business from an inventory point of view. Then we'll move on to sales, where we'll spend a bit more time on, and I'll show you how you can actually customize and really slice and dice the reports that we have here to get the information that you might need. So we have the Business Central Sales Insights reports here. This is split up by invoice customer sales, invoice item sales, invoice resource sales, and unposted sales documents, for example. Now, there's a lot of reports here on this page, and you can certainly highlight certain ones that are particularly relevant to your organization. But let's just start off diving overview. Here we've got a very nice dashboard, which is an excellent summary of the sales situation of our business. Here we can see sales versus budget, sales overall, adjusted profit, and we can look at this by different periods. Green is above target, yellow is close to target, and red is below target. We can see at the bottom we've got sales by different customers. We've got sales by different countries, by salespeople. Leaders having an excellent year at the moment, as you can see. And then we've got by different industries. So we can see service, computing, retailing, by far the best. Now, let's say we wanted to drill down into this period. So November time, we're not particularly sure what's going on here, why we had a bad. And we can see, again, how the sales then are broken down by that different period, by different customers, by different salespeople and so on. Leaders still smashing it, which is great. And different industries and so on. And we could even drill down even further from that and look at it perhaps over different weeks. So we can say, oh, well, actually, we had a really good second week in the month, but the other weeks were all very poor. And again, this can all be looked at previous versus current year, for example, if we were looking for differences year on year. Or we might be looking at different months and so on, different areas, and so on and so on. And of course, make any changes that we don't particularly want to keep, we just reset here and bring us back to our main report. So moving swiftly on, we've got some other great reports in here as well. So particularly ones that are very useful. Perhaps we might want to look at sales by customer. We can actually then look at different locations, which is great. We can see all the different sales by customers, actual sales, percentage of sales, adjusted profit. If we want to add different columns in here, we could do add new fields, different values and so on that we wanted to see on here. So we can really customize these as we see fit. Again, we can look at this by different attributes. Perhaps we might want to filter out certain weeks, years, documents, so on and so on. We can do that. Other really useful reports, new customers. Perhaps we want to understand where revenue has been driven from new customers that we've onboarded, or lost customers. Perhaps we want to understand what customers have churned. We want to have a look in the most recent month. Perhaps we want to do some analysis of salespeople. Who's driving the sales? What products are they selling? How does that compare over different periods? Something like the Sales Deep Dive is another really, really useful report, which will help show breakdown of where sales are being generated from in different regions, different areas. But maybe we can't just quite get a report that shows us what we really need to see. So then we can look at cubes. Now, the cubes are really great reports for showing us in a way that we perhaps might want to get the data. We can view the different dimensions here as columns. So here we can see salespeople by different regions, what they've sold. Or as rows. We can add in different things as well to maybe change around how we're viewing this data. So perhaps we want to look at salespeople and how they performed by different projects, by different sales campaigns. We can add additional dimensions just by holding down Command, and then that allows us to then look at a breakdown by different months, for example, different quarters. So really, hopefully what we've showed you is there's a huge amount that can be done with these reports. And even for those of you who may feel a little bit lost in here, don't worry again. We can really help you find the right reports for what you need. Selecting the Q&A report. We can go in here, we can actually ask a question about your data. Here's an example, item sales and item profit by month, year as an area chart. But this could also just be as a table. So hopefully this demonstrates that really anyone of any skill set can go in here and quite easily find the information they want. And that will help them to make better decisions for their business. Thank you very much for this demo. And again, just as a little reminder, if you'd like to dive into any of these reports in more detail and answer any of the specific challenges or needs that you may have for your business, then please let us know. Please do. Okay, so thanks for that. I hope that was enjoyable for you. So we really, what we're seeing now is that market leaders have really realized that the Microsoft standard reports in Business Central or in Power BI do not really allow organizations to be truly data driven. Then, and many firms now are not waiting for that technology to catch up. They're taking matters into their own hands and they're reaching out to us, right? So, if I think about a really good example here, right? So, and there's lots of good examples, but firms we're seeing are in across many industries. They're both big and small, and they're now investing in dynamic real-time reporting solutions on top of Business Central, like ours. And a great example of this really is I think about a fantastic company, a really forward-thinking medical manufacturing company. We've worked with them now for 3 years. They make this really awesome product, groundbreaking orthopedic solution, and it's actually based off of ski boot technology, which is a passion of mine, a big interest of mine as well, which kind of makes it even more interesting for me. But what's really special about this technology is that the way that it works, it's really comfortable, it's really flexible, and it actually helps their patients recover faster. So, this is a company that's really doing good things for the world, as well as being very, very successful. Now, they've grown and they operate internationally, founded in Europe, but they're also operating in the US and Australia. They have locations there, and they're distributing products all over the world. Now, before adopting Business Central Insights, they faced significant challenges in really managing data across multiple entities. It was slow, resource intensive, and it was really difficult to get a complete view of the business. In addition, one of the most pressing issues was a lack of real-time reporting, and it was not really possible to get this because the business really overly heavily relied on Excel. I mean, don't many companies still now, but for them it was really a problem because this they're doing their financial operational reports in Excel. It takes a lot of time for them to produce them. So therefore they can't get that real-time view of the business. It's definitely not intraday, even if it's like next day, it really often isn't in many cases. They spend weeks, in resource time actually building their month-end reporting, for example. And the other problem with this is, well, it introduced loads of manual errors. People can't rely on the data and the reports that they're getting. People don't then use it. So organizations just aren't data driven. They're expending substantial resources trying to resolve this, and overall just makes it very difficult to respond quickly to anything, issues, problems, or opportunities as well. So look, obviously they've realised a lot of business benefits, right, since implementing Business Central Insights, and they really have transformed their business, their operations as a result of it, right. So firstly, their sales, warehouse and management teams have now access to real-time reporting. And this enables them to make really faster, more timely decisions, which has improved day-to-day operations. Sales teams, for example, can monitor performance metrics. They can make adjustments quickly. They can hire. They can do anything they need to get on top of things faster and respond to changes in sales. The warehouse teams can manage inventory and track shipments more efficiently, which helps them fulfill their orders on time, reduces overbuying, and really importantly as well here, that getting the products to their customers on time actually helps with customer satisfaction as well. So they've saved a fortune by having the latest freight information, for example, enabling them to choose the best provider at the right time, saving money really by picking the right ones, the most cost-effective ones. Management now have real-time financial reports available at their fingertips, and as I sort of mentioned, right, they were spending like 2 FTEs a month, doing their month-end reportings, and that's really gone away. They've been able to really get those month-end reports in almost near real time, so they're saving time and literally money and resources there that can be utilised to doing other more productive things. Management now has a single view, consolidated view across multiple companies internationally, and that's improved their ability to make timely data-driven decisions globally. By reducing the need for manual work in preparing reports, like Excel-driven ones, as I mentioned, they've seen a reduction in errors, greater consistency in financial reporting, and that really is not just create trust, but also full visibility for management into the operational performance, which has really helped them to align management strategies, ensure smoother business operations, and they just generally feel now that they're more in control of their business. And then I think, we talked about this earlier on, Business Central Insights has really allowed people in the business to see just how easy it is to create and use reliable ad hoc reporting and to share those reports with others. So this has increased user adoption. It's helped promote more people to make data-driven decisions and internally as well. I mean, this is literally the definition of becoming more data-driven, which is what most organizations are striving to these days. And finally, but perhaps most importantly, Business Central Insights has allowed the company to commit to specific delivery days for their customers, which is kind of expected now, right? But this has also decreased delivery times and increased the reliability of delivery, which is just not just important for customer satisfaction, it's actually helping their customers to recover faster, which is so important. So hopefully these examples show that when you combine the right technology with a proactive mindset, you can transform challenges into competitive advantages. Market-leading businesses have already adapted to the need for change, and their success proves that evolving your reporting isn't just an option, it's essential for staying ahead in today's fast-paced environment.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Michael. Look, we just, I think that's a great case study. That case study there captures a lot of the different corners of the business that improved reporting can really feed into. What I'd love to just post on screen now is a poll just to find out what area of reporting you are most interested in. Now, we've listed here some of our most popular, the ones that we often sort of begin conversations in organizations with, but I appreciate that everybody here today comes from various different points in the business with varying different interests. And so if the answer that you're looking for isn't on screen now, just hit that other button and we will be in touch to sort of give you that full list of reports and where they may be able to help you too. So if everyone would mind responding to the poll right now, that would be fantastic. Okay, interesting. Looks like finance and sales is leading the way on today's audience, but we've got somebody here from purchasing and manufacturing too, which is excellent. Okay, good stuff. I'm going to give it just like another 5 seconds and then we'll move on. Very good. So look, I think to summarize, today's session. It's we started today's conversation with good decisions come from good data. Ultimately, that was the cornerstone of today's conversation. I think what we wanted to really cover was to give you those trigger points that we see so often in the businesses that we help, that really push them to take action and improve the ultimate understanding of the data that they have within the business. Do you recognize data being exported from systems, being crunched and worked on for weeks, only for the data to be out of date, but also a loss of productivity for some of your best talent that's capable of doing it? And should that talent eventually leave the business, are those reports no longer going to be able to be created, and those insights, even if they are a couple of weeks out of date, no longer be garnered? We wanted to give you some examples of how businesses are moving into that new normal of really having reports on hand which tell them where the business is going, so they can make the best decisions now to mitigate that risk, to take advantage of opportunities, and ultimately keep driving the growth of the business forward in the direction it needs to go. Michael has been working extensively with Business Central Insights over the last year to really get under the skin of many businesses in many different sectors. And it will likely be Michael that will be on hand in those follow-up calls to really take you through those reports, and we'll also have some additional help there as well. And so if you maybe said earlier, no, that's not of interest to me right now, but going through that case study with Michael where he really showed the extending benefits of getting a better grip on this within a business, and that resonated with you, do drop us an email, do get in touch, or put a comment in the chat right now, and we will follow up with you. I think for me and Michael, we want to just say we really hope this has been helpful, this has been insightful, and it gives you a little bit more clarity itself on the options that are available to you and your teams on getting the best from the data that you already own, and ultimately enabling yourselves to make the best possible decisions. Now, as we've worked through the session today, we have had a number of questions crop up. I think I'm going to pose these to you, Michael, if that's okay. I'm going to send them in your direction. Look, the first one, and it came through actually when we were talking about, it was the point in the presentation where we said, look, it's no longer just unnecessary, it's almost unacceptable because of how accessible these tools are that provide the greater level of clarity on the data and how easy they are to implement. And the question that came through is, how long does this take to install?
Oh, right. I mean, super quick. If you've got the cloud version of Business Central, we can have this up and running in 15 minutes. I mean, most customers can do it themselves, but we can always jump on a call with them and walk them through it. It is really easy. We can actually also work with the on-premise version of Business Central, which virtually no one else can. So that's a great plus point of Business Central Insights. It does take a bit longer. You need to involve your partner, but we can usually get it done in a couple of days, right? And most of it is just a bit of back and forth because we need some information from your partner. Again, it's really easy. We can have this up and running on your own data in no time. So you can really see the value of this reporting with your figures.
Very good, very good. And what's the first step to making that installation? If it's just 15 minutes, is that something that they do themselves, or is it something that they should get in touch and have a helping hand with?
So, I mean, I think I sort of slightly alluded to it on the demo, right? But there's really a connector app, which they need to download from the Microsoft App Store. They need to install that. And then they'll also need to download the relevant reporting app that they want for Power BI, install that. Obviously, they will need Power BI itself, but that's really quick, easy, cheap to do. Most people already have it, right? So it's really 2 steps, takes 15 minutes or so, and you can be up and running with your data really, really quick.
Perfect. And if the individual that's looking to gain access to these reports and benefit from them doesn't necessarily have access to the Microsoft App Store, or isn't the individual that sits over the use of Power BI in the business, are you happy for them to reach out and
Oh,
get a helping hand, guide through it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And look, we find all the time it's nothing to be, I mean, in a strange way, the apps are super easy for business users to use, right? But you will need to have access to Business Central. So sometimes the business users will want to involve the people that are responsible for managing Business Central within the business. If they have access themselves, great, we can walk them through it. Very easy for us to jump on a quick, like 15-30 minute call and go through that if you can't manage it yourself. No problem at all.
And so the other question we got here is quite a blunt and direct one, but is this just for big businesses? So,
I would say no. It's a real mix. Like, so we've got customers that are in the sort of thousands of employees, but we've also got customers. I mean, probably say 50% of our customers are below 50 employees. We see companies
okay.
that are even 10 sort of size. Like, typically, people that have had to bring on Business Central are they're not small companies. They're not tiny.
Yeah.
Many are operating in the sort of hundreds of thousands, millions of in terms of turnover. But it really is all sizes. And actually, if anything, I would say this product is even more suitable for the smaller companies that don't have dedicated data people managing data warehouses. They don't have BI developers or huge central IT teams. We work with people who are literally 10 people. There's a CFO, there's a president who's kind of doing everything as they usually are. And they're also managing Business Central to some extent, and they are managing and responsible for the company's reporting. And they use our product to help them with that, to free up massive amounts of time, resources, and money to really do other things, right? So they can get the answer, they can get the reporting done that they need with our tool.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I think some of the case studies that we shared today were maybe leaning on the bigger business which is where that question come from. But I think in the planning for today's session, Michael and I wanted to share some of those stories because it really gives a clear example of how far these reports can take a business and how complex a business that they can serve. And I'm sure your business has its own growth goals, and it wants reports that are robust, resilient, and they can ultimately be relied on. But to Michael's point there, it serves small businesses extremely well. 10 employees and up to 50 is probably where the lion's share of Business Central Insights customers reside today. But there are those bigger businesses that help us to push the needle forward on the overall product and ensure that you get that robustness and resilience that you'd expect. So is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
we're also a really good solution. Just one thing I'd add is that we're a really good solution for larger companies as well. We have like enterprise grade, features. Things like row level security, which larger organizations absolutely expect these days to protect their sensitive data. And we also have great capabilities like we can do multi-company, multi-environment, consolidated reporting, which, if you're operating in multiple countries around the world is just an absolute lifesaver, time saver. So really powerful, and it's another reason why we're attracting more and more larger companies these days as well.
Perfect. And then look, this is a question from me, Michael, on the back of what we just covered there. But what's the price point? What should we set the expectation at really for the audience today?
Well, I mean, it's almost embarrassingly cheap, right? I mean, I really have to say this. I'm shocked at how cheap it is. I know this sounds utterly ridiculous when I'm saying this, right? But when you think
Because you're
about,
from Snowflake.
I know,
Sorry.
I know. I mean, I'm kind of used to dealing with banks that are spending like,
Yeah.
tens of millions on software and technology, and smaller companies as well, right? But when I think about the value that companies get from this, like, companies, if they're not employing specialist data people, they're not working with consultants, they're not spending hundreds of thousands on data warehouse technology, they're literally saving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in some examples, right? And these reports cost as much per month as maybe an hour of consulting time. I mean, it's insane, right? We're talking a few $100s max per month, depending on which reports you want, right? To get all of this out of the box, it includes all your setup, it includes training, support. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? It really is super great value. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're growing so fast. 60% growth rate last year. I mean, it is kind of crazy, right? So really, really impressed and blown away by the value offering here. And it is really extremely good value.
The new normal for reporting and insights for Business Central users. Love it. Look, I think we're going to draw a line under the presentation today. We really appreciate you all sticking with us for today's presentation. It's been it was really good fun putting it all together, and I hope you've all found value in the content that we've shared. Like I said earlier, any questions, anything that we can ever do to help when it comes to really getting the most out of the data and reporting of your Business Central instance, Business Central Insights wake up each and every single day obsessing over how they can make your life easier and give you the clarity on the information that you already own so you can make the right decisions. And they are more than happy to help in any way that they can. And so reach out, connect with us, and if we can help, we certainly will. And look, Michael, I'll leave you to see us out.
Oh, it's all right, James. Well, thanks very much for hosting today's call with me, meeting with me. It's been really good, really good chatting to you again. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great day.